Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. It is I, Colton Robertson, and today we are talking some Star Wars, The Mandalorian. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And returning for the second time on this podcast, and certainly not the last, Clare DeGennaro. How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for having me back.
Oh, of course, of course. You know, we wanted to figure out a way to get you involved in the finale episode. Unfortunately, our schedules didn't line up, so we made this episode tailor-made for you. I don't think this would have happened otherwise. But regardless, it's gonna be nice to reflect because season 3, in retrospect, it's aging rather well in my mind. It's aging rather well, so I'm excited to talk about it. But first, you came on last month, exactly a month ago today, as far as the airing time.
Wow.
for Batman and Robin. And on that podcast, we learned that you started listening to our show around when we started talking about Moon Knight. And I was I wasn't super familiar with the fact that you're a Star Wars fan. I was curious about your relationship to Star Wars, how long that's been going on, and what drew you to this?
Yeah. So I've been a Star Wars fan longer than really any other fan thing that I have. I watched them when I was like probably 11, 12. We got the box set for Christmas, so that is how I was introduced to that. And I'm a prequels kid, so I've always been kind of more interested in that aspect. And then when the sequels came out, I was like, yeah, this is fine. I like it, but it's not quite, the Star Wars of my childhood that I loved so much. But then once The Mandalorian came out and Disney Plus started doing all of this, doing more with Star Wars, I got much more back into it. And I feel like that's really when I joined, the fandom, as we would call it. So it's been a lifelong thing, but it's definitely been something that I've enjoyed coming back to now as someone who's much older.
Oh, no, I love that. I think a lot of us prequel babies can probably relate to that sort of arc as far as our enjoyment of Star Wars, because even though I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life, there was a stretch of time there where I destroyed my DVDs, didn't have DVDs, and the only times I would watch the Star Wars movies is if I caught them on like TNT or whatever the fuck, So like that era between when my DVDs got destroyed and Disney Plus launching, my fandom wasn't as strong as it once was or what it has come to be, and Disney Plus has changed the game as far as that's concerned. The fandom is alive and well, probably more so than it ever really has been.
Absolutely.
And
You destroyed your DVDs? Like,
I
watched them so much.
I watched them so much that they were
stuff?
destroyed.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
It wasn't
we
out
went
of
through.
anger that you did that.
We went through. We definitely
Never.
went through a Revenge of the Sith copy. That's for sure.
Oh.
I know that. I think a Return of the Jedi copy got so scratched up too. But
Yeah.
I remember we tried to keep, like, we got that box set for Christmas too. It was like the gold, like the gold and black.
I had like the
kind of-
silver plated.
Yeah.
I think that was what it was.
And like I remember my brother, he wasn't very careful with things, he kind of didn't care if it was what, but I like to be a little more careful and keep things pristine, and I like to keep that box set pristine. But we just watched Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi so much, it was just inevitable.
I think I still have the DVDs.
Yeah.
I still have them.
Oh, yeah.
They're just not watchable.
Just they don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
The movie's
I'll
no
watch
longer
the first
there,
10 minutes, and then it'll be like.
Oh yeah. At least we got Disney Plus for now, though. We got that, so that's nice. But
Definitely changed the game. No, yeah, I mean, what I've got. I'm so concerned about the future of like streaming as far as Star Wars shows specifically.
Mandalorian could just stop existing at some point. Andor could stop existing at some point. Like,
where are the Star Wars TV show Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff? I want to watch this stuff and I want to have it so that it never goes away. If Disney Plus goes away, so does all of that.
That is kind of a crazy thought.
Yeah, like it's not
maybe
good.
not for us, but like for our kids, like who knows if they'll never be able to see this? That would be crazy.
I know. Especially The Mandalorian. This one's tailor-made for the next generation of Star Wars fans, I think, and you know, I think it started more as being tailor-made for the next generation of Star Wars fans, and has now evolved into probably more aimed towards roughly our age range, given that we've had the time to watch Clone Wars and watch Rebels and watch all this stuff, and then get reacquainted with characters like Bo-Katan Kryze and stuff. So, let's talk some Mandalorian. Because obviously Disney Plus, that's what they literally launched with The Mandalorian. Like, they announced Disney Plus, and they were like, awesome, we're going to do the first live-action Star Wars TV show to open that thing up. So, like, it goes hand in hand, The Mandalorian and Disney Plus. And, man, Season 3, you know, I had my gripes throughout the season. And, but the way they capped it off in that back half, they really tied that thing all together. Claire, you know, we haven't had you on to talk any Season 3. I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, not to reiterate everything that you've all been talking about with your coverage of the season, which has been great. But yeah, it was a weird season for me. I think now, having seen the whole thing, I understand more of the choices that were made. I think that I can appreciate what they did with it. I wonder how much behind the scenes stuff affected what they were able to do. And I think that it's strange because it seemed to try to expand the story very far, and now at the end I feel like it was kind of also a reset of like, okay, we're going back to what it was, which I don't mind. I think that was an interesting way to look at it, and now I'm kind of just looking at the whole season as like, oh, this whole thing was a side quest. Like, we're not doing episodes of side quests, the whole thing was a side quest.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate it for that. And there were really cool moments in this season, and there were really great episodes of this season, even if altogether didn't quite come together for me. I think that looking back on it, it makes a little bit more sense than it did, especially after the first couple episodes.
No, I'm 100% with you because, you know, we start the season like pretty strong. You know, the premiere, you're like, okay, instead of randomly going on side quests, they're setting up all the side quests, you know, the Gorian Shard stuff and IG-11 and all this other stuff, going to find the memory unit, which never ends up coming back around. They end up doing something else with that altogether, which is cool. But, you know, and then the second episode, The Mines of Mandalore, the kind of idea of the season I had in my head coming into it. And I think that's a key component of, you know, expectations versus reality, is that I thought what was accomplished in episode 2 of this season was the point of this season.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I thought exploring Din's relationship to the Children of the Watch was going to be the point of the season. And when that's kind of stamped out immediately, he's like, yeah, I'm going to redeem myself and then I'm going to dedicate myself to this fully again. Like, that's all. It was kind of like, oh, okay, sure. I hope we get back around to that. And then we never really did.
Yeah, and I guess it might be a marketing decision too, because they were really pushing the like Din versus Bo-Katan, or like it was Din really and Bo like side by side, and like, I mean, you know, seasons 1 and 2, it's Din and Grogu. They're clearly the main characters. We follow them everywhere we go, and like, I'm not mad that Bo-Katan was the main character of this season. I think it's just, if they marketed the season from the start as Bo, you know, like being the focal point, and then having like Din and Grogu on the sides of her, you know, and maybe getting us used to that idea before, instead of it being this Din and Bo, and some people were like, oh, they're gonna fight each other. Like, that's a lot of people were like, they're versus each other, you know, like it's gonna be Din versus Bo-Katan, and they're gonna fight, and it's like, I don't know, everyone was a little confused even before the season started, and then once it started, people were still like, yeah, I could see Bo turning on Din at some point, and I'm like, everyone was just kind of everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think the season itself is bad. That's the thing. It's just kind of everything around it that made it confusing and weird, I guess, a little bit. But I don't know. I'll be interested to see like where it falls in the grand scheme of Star Wars, like of Disney Plus like era, where you think this season like stacks up with everything else. Because I did, like you said, we might do like a Disney Plus kind of, see where everything stands, and I kind of just thought, I'm like, I put everything that they've released out, and I don't know, I do like it, but I still think that it's maybe on the weaker end. It's on the weaker end of what
half.
they've released.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
but
I think too, like you said with the marketing and everything, like I can't even imagine what the fan reaction to finding out that Mando wasn't really the main character of this season would have been prior to the season. I think I would have been upset about it because I wasn't super. I like Bo-Katan a lot. I think that her arc was amazing. I just think that what I like about the show and what I think a lot of people like about the show is the character of the Mandalorian and also the relationship between him and Grogu. Obviously, like that's why we're watching the show. And I feel like this season stepped away from that or like didn't quite understand that really is the heart and soul of the show. And so I feel like there were a lot of moments that everything looked really cool, but it didn't feel good or it didn't feel the way I wanted it to feel. And I wonder if this season was kind of like, we're going to throw a lot at you. We're going to show you a lot of stuff to kind of distract from the fact that we're not maybe going to right away do the storylines that you thought we were going to do. Again, I wonder if it had something to do with the fact that Pedro Pascal was clearly not available to film. And if you can't have the possibility of him taking off his helmet, then like, what storyline are we doing with what just previously happened, right? It seems like maybe they were just like, we'll push that off for now and we'll give them a lot to look at. We'll give them a very noisy season and then maybe we'll come back to this at another time.
No, yeah, I'm 100% with you because speaking of like the behind the scenes stuff, that seems like we've heard this kind of complaint throughout the season, this critique that season 3 doesn't quite feel like the same show as the first 2 seasons, and I think that's more than fair. We've talked about how the Rangers of the New Republic got merged with this season of the show, and that automatically lent it to having sort of a different feel than the first couple seasons. It made it much grander. It was very fun to watch, but it was there were points where it was like, how much of this do we really need? And then beyond that, the first 2 seasons are, like we said, so Din and Grogu focused that to expand it to Bo-Katan kind of made it feel that maybe Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni didn't always have the same idea. And then they came together and they made Jon Favreau show for the first 2 seasons and made Dave Filoni show for the 3rd season.
That makes a whole lot of sense now that I think about it. Because, yeah, I'm fresh off of watching seasons 1 and 2. I just got a good rewatch in. And Ahsoka, like Ahsoka was in season. It'd be a perfect transition from, like, if they just continued the, like, little Ahsoka threads and, like, ended up teasing Thrawn. Like, there's so much stuff that's being thrown around right now about, like, Disney higher-ups and how, like, Kathleen Kennedy said no to this and hard cut this off the show, and then Bob Iger said yes and no to that. And I'm like, I don't know how to trust any of this, Like, I don't want to trust any of it at all because most of it just seems that it's just for clicks and views and articles anyways. And like, so, like, at the end of the day, until we get anything that's concrete, like, I don't want to say that it's anyone's fault. But what I can say is that, like, there was just something that was off. We can tell that the writing, some decision that wasn't on the performers. It wasn't on the actors, They did the best that, with the cards that they were dealt, they kind of did the best that they could. So it wasn't their fault. It was really the writing room or something up there. Until we know, I guess, I don't know. I don't know how we'll know what if they'll ever release that. I don't think they will, but
or maybe it's just not that deep. Maybe they just needed time.
Yeah, no, and maybe there's the perspective that they're just looking to get Mandalore back into the big picture, and they need like that requires a pretty extensive arc, like it truly does, and I'm glad it got done because I truly think Bo's is one of the better arcs in all of Star Wars now. This season of Bo-Katan's arc, I thought it was really fucking good. But you know, it was interesting to dedicate an entire season of a show, to it, you know, like, because even so, you know, and I'm not one to gripe on like filler because I love filler. That's when we get like the most character moments and stuff. It's when we spend the most time with our characters. You know, a lot of people regarded episode 6 of this season, Guns for Hire, where they met Jack Black and Lizzo, as kind of the filler episode of the season. But that one more than anything was the most like compelling episode for Din and Bo's relationship. You know, like the way they work together, the way they connect, and the way they discuss things. Like, I need more of that. And I just like there were too many episodes this season where it felt like our characters got sidelined for the grand scope, and it's like I don't that's not what this show has been, and I'm okay with them taking that route. You know, like I said, season 3 was still grand and it was fun, but you know, when it came to the Mandalorian, I was expecting character moments. That's what the entire first 2 seasons have been, and it kind of took a step back from that. But like episodes 1 and 2 did a pretty good job. Episodes 7 and 8 did a pretty good job. But like pretty much everything in between, everyone took kind of a step to the side. It was kind of like just,
I don't know. It's just like those moments, like on the street when Grogu's in IG-12 at the time and just walking, you know, and they're at that food stand. Like those moments right there, it's sure filler, whatever, but it gets a smile on. If you're a Star Wars fan, I hope you're smiling during that scene. If you're not, there's more going. I don't know. There's more wrong with you there. But like it shows like Grogu finally has like an upper hand on Din. You know, like it's the first time that Grogu is kind of fighting back, and it's like his teenage age. You know, I don't know. He's going through his like rebellious stage, and it's hilarious. And like I don't know. That's what I want to see. You know, I really love how grand the show is and everything. But like I really just don't have any time to sit with the characters and know what they're thinking after these big moments happen. You know, like I really think that after we just took Mandalore back, you know, like that's the grand thing. That's what we've been wanting to do the whole season, and that is the plan. You know, even from season 2, that was Bo's plan to take back Mandalore. She was, you know, ready to just get crates of weapons and go back and take it right away. So like that's been the plan the whole time. And we finally got there. And then it was just like, bam, you know, Ragnar's, whatever you want to call that. I don't know, you know, initiation. And then bam, the forge is relit. And then bam, Din's back on Navarro. Bam, Din's in his house. And it's like, oh my God, like we just took back Mandalore, something that we've been wanting to do for so long. And then now we don't even get to hear Bo's thoughts on what she's thinking, or the armor, or Din, or anyone really. It's just like that's what we need more of, and that's what I feel like was lost this season. And like that's the moments and everything. Like I love where the story went, and I like it's so cool, like what they're setting up. But it does feel more of like a setup, you know. And I do think that they still told somewhat of a complete story, but I really do think that this season was more of a setup for the next generation of like Star Wars and the next era of Star Wars, rather than let's make a really good season of television. So
I think that they didn't really make any hard and fast decisions about a lot of things this season. I think they left a lot open. Particularly when I think of like Din and Bo-Katan's relationship, I think that they kind of floated the idea that maybe it was romantic. They didn't really do anything with it. I think that if we continue the story and we see that it is romantic, it makes sense with what they started. But I also feel like if they decide not to go that route, then they don't even have to mention it. And I feel like I wonder if they've done that with a lot of different arcs in this series. Like, okay, we're gonna float the idea. We're gonna float the idea of like Din's back with the Mandalorians. We're going to float the idea of maybe he's working with the New Republic. We're going to float the idea of maybe Elia Kane is going to be important. We're not going to make any really hard and fast decisions about it right now.
No, yeah, that's a solid take that I hadn't really considered. Everything is kind of like, well, if we wanted to act on it, we absolutely can. But if we want to completely disregard it, we also can do that.
I feel like that's kind of this whole season.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because like at the end of season 2, we're left in a place where we're like, oh,
we got to deal with this.
Yeah,
I feel like we don't have to deal with anything.
Choices have been made. We have to deal with the ramifications of the actions taken at the end of season 2. Moff Gideon's in custody. Bo-Katan doesn't have the Darksaber. Din's taken off the helmet, and then in season 3, at the end of a season where everything has been done, they immediately undo all of it. Book of Boba Fett, they reunite Din and Grogu. He redeems himself in the minds of Mandalore early on this season. Bo is no longer interested in the Darksaber or wanting to rule. We're not doing a Din versus Bo thing, which I ended up really enjoying, but like, that's what they made it seem like they were going to be doing, you know? Like, there's all sorts of stuff where it's like, oh, well, we just decided we're not going to do the things that season 2 seems to insist they will be doing.
Yeah. And I think that was something that was kind of bothering me this season too. Like, a reason why this season wasn't really working for me was that it seemed like there were no consequences for anything that had happened previously. And when you end season 2, I don't know if anyone would ever have thought that, like, we're not going to deal with the fact that he took off his helmet. We're not going to talk about the fact that that's like, and even the fact that no one questions him on, or doesn't question Din on anything that he does this season. Like, there's never a moment where anyone is like, hey, why are you doing this? Hi, why did you take your helmet off last season if it's so important to you? What do you want at this point? Like, we just don't really get anything from him.
Yeah, like, internally, there's got to be a reason he decided, I want to take my helmet off and show my child my face.
This might be the last time I see him. I don't know if I'll really ever see him again. And I think, and after my rewatch, I've realized that, the end of this season, it's like the official adoption. And people are like, well, he's already been calling him his son and everything. So, like, we were already there. But I feel like, I don't think it's really that. Like, before you adopt someone in real life, you call them dad and son. Like, you get used to the idea before you just like, oh, adopted, now we call each other dad. And, like, you build that relationship first. And that's what we've been building towards until, like, this official, let's write it in the song and make it official, because I wrote down, like, I even, in season 1, whenever the armorer was talking with Din, I wrote down some of the lines because I still think that there's maybe a chance that there's a grander storyline going on that could really change. Like, I don't know. I'm holding on a little bit just in case. But there's a line that the armorer says, whenever she gives him his mission and saying, "You must go. The foundling is in your care. By creed, until it is of age or reunited with its own kind, you are as its father. This is the way." So it's in creed that until this baby can speak for itself and take the creed for itself, or you give it back to its parents, you have to protect it and you have to be its father. So Din wasn't necessarily protecting Grogu out of, love or compassion, whatever, at first, necessarily. It was more of like his mission, but then obviously he does have an attachment to Grogu, and like it's more out of that, and then now I officially adopt you as my son. It's already been said, but now let's make it official, and I'm not going to reunite you with your parents now. I am taking you as, my son, and you are officially like taking the creed now,
That's another interesting piece of like discourse that's been happening. A lot of like, I didn't get this at all from the context of the show, but a lot of people were like thinking they were setting up another side quest at the end of season 3 whenever the armorer says his parents are not here if they're even alive. Like, everyone's like, oh god, are they gonna find Grogu's parents? No, they're fucking not. No, they're not. That's not at all.
I feel like he just comes out of the earth. Like, he doesn't even have parents.
Exactly. He just exists. He's just there. Yeah. Like, and that's my thing, is that like I find sometimes that discourse surrounding the show is about like the complete wrong things, like and around pretty much everything is around the complete wrong things, because like that shouldn't even be on your mind. His family is Din. He just got adopted by Din. That's what just happened. What are we talking about trying to find Grogu's parents? That's not going to happen.
It's also, it's never that deep. It's never like a one throwaway line that ends up being like the crux of the issue. Like, it's never like that.
No, and it's immediately undone. He's like, yeah, fuck it. I'm never gonna find his fucking parents. I'll adopt him as my own.
I don't think he even has parents. Like, who knows if he even has parents? We don't even know how this species comes about at all. So he could just be searching forever, and then I don't know. It's much better this way, and that's what Grogu wanted. That's what Grogu wanted too. Yeah, like Grogu left the Jedi. Grogu left Luke, for Din, and like that's what he wanted. So
he
like
found his place. Man.
It's not even a lot of people. Like I was also. I think even I said in the finale, I'm like, man, they really didn't even give Grogu the chance to like that like Luke gave Grogu the chance to leave, but Din didn't give Grogu the same chance. But like I forgot that Grogu already said no to Luke, and he already made like his decision by leaving already and putting on the chainmail. So like I don't know, I was a little wrong there.
And I can't hold you for that. One of my things. About the official adoption of Grogu, in Star Wars, we have so many examples of found family and just deciding that you are of their line, with Rey becoming a Skywalker. And I mean, like Leia is officially in Organa. Like that's more of an official sort of thing. But, with Grogu making the choice to go back to Din, and Din, like, I appreciate that they did like an official thing, but I also don't think they needed to do an official thing in Star Wars. I think it's just always kind of been the case that if someone decides they're a family, they're a family. Like that's what Star Wars has always been. So I thought it was kind of a hollow attempt at trying to seal up the season.
Yeah, 100%. Again, we're not introducing anything new. It's like we already knew this. We're not doing anything hard and fast and different with this season. Like nothing. There's no big consequences of really.
Yeah, and like
the whole Mandalore thing, but like again, they're not even living on Mandalore now, so.
Yeah, like that's what was interesting to me too. Is the armorer being like, "You must take him on journeys as your mentor did for you," and it's like, what the fuck have they been doing, bro? Like, have they not been going on fucking journeys?
Side quest. They had to help out their friend Bo-Katan, and now I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more of just what you said earlier of just let's put everything kind of loosely and vaguely up in the air so that we can do whatever we want when the time comes. Just in case we don't have Pedro Pascal that can come on set and show his face, or or there is a higher up that makes a decision that cuts something out. Because I guess there actually is some discourse that I didn't know about with Pedro Pascal and Skeleton Crew or something like that he was supposed to be on Skeleton Crew, but then there was someone like in the cast or something where the cast wouldn't work well together, so they like cut it out. I don't know. I guess this could just be another lie that someone made up completely. But
every season there's a rumor that comes out that's like everyone hates working with Pedro Pascal and he's leaving the show, and
he left set in anger, and then like
I'm like
behind the scenes,
a $1 billion job where he has to show up 2 days a year to.
But then I saw I hope this isn't a Pedro quote, but it says it was from him, and he says that he loves playing the role and he would love to play it for as long as he could, but even if someone else has to fit in the suit, then that's okay, or something along those lines. And that's just like, I don't know, it's very weird that. I don't know. I really hope that that he stays, Mando, and I hope that there isn't like the possibility that he's going to be recast or anything. Like I really hope this is kind of just smoke. And
I don't think he'll ever be recast. It's just that like they're gonna have to do something pretty compelling to convince me he should stay inside a suit.
Yeah, I think the issue too is like. There was never a moment where I thought that he would have his mask off all the time. Like, he still is, I think, very ingrained in this idea of, like, I'm not going to show my face to everyone. But we're at the point where, like, we need some growth from him. Like, we need to see him start to question. We need to see, God, I wanted to see his backstory so badly. We still don't know anything about this man. Other than that, his parents are dead. And, like, it's Star Wars. Your parents are dead. Like,
I think that's what we're getting into, and I think all the dots are connecting.
I hope so. I really, and I'm hoping that it was just like we're pushing that off until we know that Pedro can be here. Because I think next season, I'm not trying to have many expectations for it because I had a lot of expectations for this season, and then I kind of was disappointed with what we didn't get and couldn't really enjoy what we did get, but. What I'm hoping is that in the next season, where it seems to be a reset of season 1 and like going back to bounty hunting and things, that he is starting to realize that he is different. Like he can't just, in the words of our Lord and Savior Harry Styles, it's not the same as it was. So
No, it is not. No, it is not.
The same,
But
and I think he needs to start to realize that, because I think he's in denial about that.
that's what I think too. But like, there's nothing the show's doing to present that to me. Like that.
In Book of Boba Fett, I think they did a better job of that, because you see him trying to do his bounty hunter thing, but he's still thinking about Grogu, and Ahsoka's like, listen, like, you made a choice, you have to deal with it, and the armor kicks him out. Like, I feel like they started to deal with that really nicely in that show, and then, again, there was just no consequences for it this season.
Well, and it's like the consequences of season 2 was wrapped up in 4 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett and the first 2 episodes of this season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Reunite Grogu and Din. He redeems himself. Okay, we can just wash our hands of that for a while, and we'll figure that out later. Like that was kind of why I was like, I think in a better show, in a better written show, everything that we did get could have existed alongside Din questioning his religion, because like what's Bo doing? She's questioning her entire outlook on everything now that she is being introduced to Din and introduced to the Children of the Watch. I feel like there's something where simultaneously Din can learn from Bo and kind of realize like, oh, if she can walk both worlds, why can't I, sort of thing. Instead they were like, we're not gonna deal with that at all. Let's do the what's interesting is that like this season was the most difficult to write in comparison to seasons 1 and 2, I think, like as far as the arc Bo takes and the grandeur of the storyline. And even then they did it in the easiest way they possibly could, which is like it's kind of my issue with the season as a whole, is that like, while I enjoy the things they did, I just know it could have been done better. We've seen it done better. So it's like, I just have mixed feelings.
Bo like sitting in her throne room, and like I think it's episode 2, whenever she's all depresso and all like given up, like just sitting. I'm done with everything. I hate but like before that, like I don't know. She's apparent. Like, did she try to take back Mandalore again? Like, I guess she was looking for weapons and stuff in like season 2. And they got those. But then she had her followers and everything. But then apparently she tried to take back Mandalore, and then her followers left her after that. After it didn't work again. Or
No, go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm confused, I guess, a little bit. Like, did something happen off screen that we didn't see?
Well, what happened off screen is that they're all standing there in the cruiser after Grogu leaves, and it's like, okay, where did we all go from? Like, what happened after that scene? Did Din put his back on? Was like, okay, we're out. Like, what happened?
I think that's just crucial to show. Like, if Bo was going to be the main character of the season, we need to know what happened from, we got all the connecting dots for Din and Grogu, and we got them back together. But like, Bo was just off screen that pretty much that whole time. And I don't know. It's just like, I feel like we need to know. I don't know. I feel like instead of her sitting at the table and telling everyone how she lost the Darksaber and everything, I guess that happened before. But like a lot of her story happened through exposition instead of it just being, I don't know, a flashback for Bo, something. For Bo.
I thought that
maybe she went back to her crew and was like, the other Mandalorian now has the Darksaber, and they're like, wow, like, because that's really important to them for some reason. So maybe they were just like, okay, we're out, and then she didn't know what to do after that.
Yeah, no, like that's what they tell us. Like that is what happened, like what's interesting is there's this framing of it in episode 6 where Lizzo says that like your friends over there said that they left you when you still had aspirations to retake Mandalore, which doesn't make any sense. Like that's what they want to do. I don't like what are we talking about? They all want that. I don't but regardless, I do think they did that relatively well. It was exposition-y, like if they're not going to show it, they had to tell us because there's no way we can avoid that. Her just sitting in her throne room, I think if I remember correctly, her line was like, I returned without the Darksaber. They left. and I had nothing left.
So it was just that was it. Nothing
that was
actually
it.
happened.
Like
yeah, but, I mean, I still agree that there seemed to be a disconnect between what happened at the end of that season and what happened at the beginning of this one.
No, for sure. Because, like, not to mention that Bo, I like the way it set up her arc for the season, her finding herself and reacquainting herself with Mandalorian culture and being like, okay, wait a minute, I think I remember what drove me previously. But the idea that Bo, between seasons 2 and 3, lost all devotion.
Yeah.
Lost all sight of herself because she didn't have the Darksaber. Don't buy that. And I know that there's been like, she's done this multiple times. She's fought for Mandalore. She's won it. She's lost. She's fought for Mandalore. She's won it. She's lost. There is a cyclical thing going on where it's like, okay, at some point you do go, fuck, man, is it even worth it for another time? Because that was kind of another interesting point of this season, is that this arc is one that we've seen with Bo-Katan, if you've watched Rebels. Her gaining the Darksaber and being like, yeah, we got Mandalore back, baby, let's do it. And then Mandalore fell into Moff Gideon's hands and the Empire destroyed it. And then, like, it's just interesting to watch a character go through essentially the same exact shit twice.
And then it works.
And it works, like that's not one that like happens very often. And I like I said, I really appreciate Bo for this season. And but that's the thing, is that like that's about it. That's about all I appreciate about this season.
I agree. I feel like that's actually like the same arc that Bo goes through in the sequels, where like he does the same thing and it doesn't work, and then at the end, it actually does work. Like we can count on everyone else. And I didn't particularly like that in the sequels, and I didn't really think about it in this one. But yeah, I think that her arc in general is just a little bit more compelling.
Yeah, but
I wonder if they're just trying to give Bo a live action arc that can kind of sum up her, sum up her animation arc, so that people don't have to watch. Like they just know that people aren't going to watch those shows. Sad, like at this point, I don't know. And just maybe they're just trying to wrap that all up, destroy the Darksaber, get rid of all that and be like, all right, we got Mandalore back. There's a bunch of Mandalorians. Now we gave you the different factions that exist. Death Watch not gone. One thing, Death Watch is still thriving. The Armorer doesn't just like, I don't know. There's no way. I don't know. I'm not letting go of the Armorer. I'm like 50-50 on her. I think she's more of like, I think she had some bad stuff in her past. I think she's fully on Bo-Katan's side now, but she did something before. Something happened, whether it was the Armorer or someone. There was something that happened before that will change the game, and they're waiting on the reveal. And I don't know. I think it was supposed to happen this season, but then they were like, oh fuck, we need to do something different. I don't know.
I think my theory that she's Rook cast could still work.
Yeah,
like,
I think
really. Because if she's part of the reason Mandalore was destabilized in the first place, that automatically puts her at odds with the Kryze clan. If she, because she helped Maul ascend to the throne of Mandalore, which is an inciting act of destroying the place. So it's just kind of like there's all sorts of directions they could go, but when it comes to Death Watch, I don't think Death Watch is still around. I don't think she's joking when she says,
Oh, okay. I mean, not like by name, but I mean like those people are still, like they're scattered, but they still are doing what they, Death Watchy things. They still believe in the way that they did. But
maybe she just feels really guilty. Maybe she doesn't want anyone to know what happened, and that's why she's being so weird and shady. And that's why she's like, it's fine.
And she doesn't want to take her helmet off ever. She's like, hey, let's actually adopt this. Yes, let's make this. This is the creed. This is what the Mandalorians did. Even better for my case. Let's never take our helmets off.
Wait, that is so sorry.
And her armor, it's very crimson, very that red already. I don't know. I think there's definitely something going on. And one thing that I like. Okay, I guess I could be looking a little just too far into it. I really want it to be the Armorer, so like I'm looking at details, kind of surrounding her. but like the Rommel, is that what it's called? The thing that she gave Grogu? What's the
Rondell?
Rondell. Sorry, I knew it started with an R. Rondell.
I think it's so funny to me.
Yeah,
because I looked up the definition of Rondell just because I was like,
Mhm.
that's such a dope ass name for it. You know what it means?
What?
Circle.
That's it. Circle.
That is so Star Wars.
Wow. Well, the circle.
You'll
that the
get
armor,
a Rondell. It's just a
But,
fucking
like,
circle.
in the armor, there's like, it's not just Beskar. You know, there's like tech in there. There's like wires and like, I don't know. There's like stuff in there. You know, like Din, when he got his armor all messed up, he was like wiring it all and like fixing it up. So it's not just armor. There's like tech in there, and even in Grogu's little circle, there's tech in there. And I'm like, you know, they do have Grogu's DNA and everything, but like, what an easy way to track every single Mandalorian that exists by the armorer just putting a tracker in every single Mando's armor that exists. You know, like every single armor piece that she makes, there is tech in there, and it's just, who's ever gonna think that the armorer is the one, you know, that's coming at them and tracking all of them. But like Grogu has that thing on his chest, and then they're tracking him through Gideon's, you know, thing the whole way through. And I thought it could just be his DNA's, you know, signature, but I mean, they literally have something on his chest, and that's way better in my opinion, you know. And then Mando has a full
You're never allowed to
suit.
take it off.
You know, exactly. They're not allowed to take, and their helmet, that they're not allowed to ever take off, just put a tracker in their helmet, you know, sort of. I don't know. I think, like, and, you know, Gideon, like, there's a reason that Mandalore was the only place that could forge Beskar. Like, and I guess it was there. Like, Beskar, just the material itself, I think, was just found in Mandalore.
Yeah, the mines.
But, like, no one else fucked, like, I don't know. You didn't hear about people on Tatooine just forging their own Beskar, or people, I guess Tatooine is a really bad example, but like even a way more developed, Coruscant, you know, there's still no forging Beskar on Coruscant, you know. There's something special about it that Mandalorians only know, and I feel like the armorer is, you know, it's a lot of them died through the Great Purge, and the Imperial, and Gideon, in this example, needed someone that knew how to forge Beskar, that knew what they were doing. And he sends out a bounty to try to find Grogu, and then he sees all of this Beskar, shiny, brand new, on a full suit of armor made for Din, and is like, oh, very interesting. Someone knows how to make Beskar, and very well at that point. So, and then he goes in, and then all of the Mandalorians are dead. Like, that's the next thing. They save Din, and then the next thing we see, all of them are dead, and the armorer and Paz are the only ones that are alive. Paz is gone. We don't really see where he went. But then the armorer's there just picking up all the scraps, melting down the Beskar, and like just acting like it's all good. You know, like, I don't know. There's something just fishy going on with the armor.
I love that idea. And I'm thinking, because I don't really totally understand all of the like lore of Mandalore. Like, it doesn't totally make sense to me, because this whole like the way, like, we've walked the way of the Mandalore. Is this something that the armorer is simply making up? Like, does anyone even know? How long has like this group been around for? Like,
right.
Because Din doesn't know. Din grew up with this, so if this is something that was just like a Clone Wars era thing that she's making up, like, how would you even know? And not even to be like super evil, but maybe just to cover her own tracks. Or
Right.
Right.
Yeah, is the helmet thing even legitimately an old Mandalore? Like, is that actually a thing?
When you think about like what Mandalore is like in the Clone Wars, it's really not a warrior caste. It's a very like, it's a city that's like full of technology,
it's a civilization.
Like,
yeah,
it's a very peaceful place, and
right.
I do think it's interesting what they decide to bring into live action from the animation. Like, I think it's very interesting that we have never gotten a Satine mention, despite the fact that we now have 2 shows where her her family or her love
modern
interest
Star Wars' refusal to acknowledge Satine Kryze and Padme Amidala pisses me off.
And I'm just and Padme, you're right. Like, say, why are we not like
Satine is responsible for making Mandalore a peaceful planet, a planet that was in constant civil war and that could never agree with each other, and then she got them to be peaceful and then become a civilization and not fight. And I feel like, that's pretty crucial on Bo, on her, you know, but just on Mandalore, as a whole. I don't know.
I do want to go back to Claire's questioning of the way of the Mandalore as it is put. I tend to trust Bo-Katan as like the level head as far as knowing the history of Mandalore, being a part of the royal family and stuff. And she does kind of insist that it's an ancient way though. Like it hasn't been like that for fucking ever. So like it is automatically weird that the armor would bring that back because it's an ancient way that has been forgotten forever. But given that the during the Clone Wars the Mandalorians were peaceful, the Death Watch was there to incite the idea that they need to be a warrior people. That is the point of Mandalorians. That was the purpose of Death Watch in the first place. And for the Children of the Watch to be an offshoot of that, where they are doing bounty hunting and they are training to be warriors and they are walking the oldest way of the Mandalore, kind of makes sense as an offshoot of the Death Watch, just in the most extreme sense of the word. So like I follow the history of how it got here pretty concisely, because not to mention I don't think the Children of the Watch existed until the Purge.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Also, yeah. I mean, I just have a couple of questions about how they even come to be, because like obviously they're not having families, right? So like everyone in the Children of the Watch is someone that they found. So I guess they could tell them anything, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess.
No, yeah, and I'm 100% with you.
Like, I don't really know. I don't really get it.
And I thought the armorer was around whenever Din, was a foundling, but like, no. There was a line where she's basically like, "Hey, have you trained in the ways of the jetpack or whatever? Maybe like Rising Phoenix, something like that." And then he's like, "Yes, as a kid." He says, "When I was a boy," and then she's like, "This will make you complete." So like, I guess. Whenever Din was training, she wasn't around. And then there was another line where it was like that she didn't know of something about Din's younger life, or like that. Yeah, like Din even says, "I was a foundling," and then but the armor's like, "I know." So I was trying to kind of pinpoint when the armorer and Din would have met, sort of thing, because I don't know. I was just trying to think of.
There's a really important detail in season 3 about Din growing up on Concordia. Din grew up in Death Watch.
Yeah.
Specifically, not the Children of the Watch. And it's not until the Purge that the Armorer leads a sect of the Death Watch to dip off the planet and preserve themselves, or dip off the moon and preserve themselves, which is why I think they induced the ancient way once again, which is odd. Because the whole idea there was that, like, to preserve Mandalorians, we must hide. But then you wear the most obviously, glaringly, like, if you look at someone wearing that, you go, you're a fucking Mandalorian, And to the idea that you're not supposed to take it off by any means kind of negates the idea that, but that was the whole point of the covert in season 1, is that they only went up one at a time. There was never more than one of them out and about, so nobody knew their true numbers. And there's like this. So, like, again, that's why I like both perspectives. I would love a twist with the armorer that makes, like, because that was why I wanted there to be an armorer twist, is because I knew it would incite Din to reevaluate his faith. And that's what I want. I want that to be the route we go eventually. But we've also gotten to a place where, given all we've seen the armorer go through in combatants with the Empire, it'd be kind of like, how? Why? It'd be a little bit of a character contrivance at this point.
Which is why I kind of like this idea that maybe she's doing this out of guilt, and that this will come out, and it'll be a crisis of faith, because she's essentially like the high priestess of whatever this is. Because the story as we have now, I can't see anything less than that making Din question what he's doing. Like, right. He is really, I feel like he's just been really allowed to just retreat into himself this season, and not, again, like I said, not have anything questioned of him or questioning anything that's going on with him. So I think it's going to have to be something that serious for me to really believe it.
Yeah, right. Because, like, if it was going to be as simple as, oh, I love my son,
it would have happened already.
It would have already happened, and he wouldn't have inducted him into the way without, like that's the thing is that like, so I'm conflicted as to the direction of the show in the future. I think that I think it has a lot of potential, but like we gotta get back to making Din a character. He's just kind of there, which I don't have a problem with. Like I like him being Bo's right-hand man. I thought we made some leaps whenever he was like, I'm committed to you. I will be by your side until your song is written. I was like, that's dope.
Ooh, yes.
What happened on that ship, that Mad Max looking boat, whatever. Good. That was a good day for the show. Very good day.
But then he even says, I will be with you until your song is written. Mm-hmm. And then fucking leaves Mandalore. And I know Mandalore has been... I know Mandalore...
They each other. There's no scene where they even talk after that.
Is he saying that her song has already been written? That her song was just taking back Mandalore, and now that it's taken, that like he's just... That
seems to be the implication.
I thought it was a euphemism for like until you're dead.
That's typically what your song means in like a warrior
I guess maybe
culture.
He's on another mission from the armorer. The armorer specifically said you have to take him on his journeys then.
As your mentor did for you.
So I guess, I don't know.
Again, they left it open. No hard and fast decisions were made.
But I don't know, as I was watching seasons 1 and 2, I had the thought, and after watching the sequels as well, a really thing that I liked about the sequels was the whole dyad between Rey and Kylo, and how it was just the Force that kind of did that. At first, like, Snoke said that he linked their minds, but then it surprised Palpatine that, like, oh my god, you're a dyad. Like, it surprised him whenever he was right in front of him. So, like, I think, I don't know, he linked their minds, but he didn't really know that they were a dyad. It's kind of just a thing that happens. And the first time we see Force healing, was it Grogu or Rey? Was Grogu healing Grief Karga, or was it Rey? Because it came out very fast. It came out like literally the episode came out like either a week before the movie or a week after the movie.
It came out 2 days before the movie.
Exactly, and I feel like wouldn't it be amazing if there's another dyad in the Force right now, and it's Din and Grogu, and like I don't know, it's just they have to be together, and like they're just Grogu, and like I don't know if Force healing is something that is just any Jedi can do, because Rey is just like, yeah, it was easy. I just gave some of my life force to it. You would do it too. It's like she kind of just seemed like it was second nature to her, but I don't know. We've never seen it before, and maybe that's why. Is that maybe it's not second nature just to any other Jedi, but the fact that she's, I don't know, a dyad, maybe that's something more special, and maybe that's the story we can get into, is that they're a dyad of the Force, but what happens there whenever one lives to only be 90 to 100 and one lives to be 1,000, versus Rey and Kylo, Rey and Kylo that are just the same species sort of thing. But I don't know, that's going real deep into the weeds there. I don't know, that's a very grand, that's an even grander storyline that they would have to go on, but
yeah, that's another theory, that like the whole Din maybe having some sort of Force sensitivity thing. That's another one that I think already would have been touched on. Like if they were to now incorporate that, it'd be kind of like, all right, so y'all got no idea what to do with this show then. Huh?
Yeah, that's
no, I don't think it's Force sensitivity. No, that like. I just, if anything is done with Din, it's challenging his beliefs, or he becomes the leader. Like, I really want Bo to have all the revelations and her to be the leader herself and her to do everything. But I think a lot of people recognize that her past is just very tricky, and having someone on the throne like that can just be very dangerous for Mandalore. It just outright. It just, even though everything is good right now, in the future it just couldn't, or possibly it might not be. So they see Din, someone who has spoken with the Sand People, with the Jawas, with the Ugnaughts, with every sort of people, everyone he goes around with. He knows how to communicate with people. He doesn't want to be the leader, he doesn't want to be the hero, but he happens to be, and he, I don't know, it's a trope that I really like, It's kind of like an old Western trope, I guess, and that's what Star Wars is very heavily based on, is just like the old cowboy that comes into the town, or whatever, and just passing through, but then they give him, like, hey, we're in trouble, we need your help. He's like, oh, I don't need to help you, I'm too big for blah, blah, blah. But then he helps the town, and they give him a house on the outskirts, and he lives, and it's, I don't know, it's sort of how this season ended. It was very, very cowboy, esque.
Absolutely.
And so I really think that might be the story they go on with Din, is that he's kind of being bred to be the leader, and he's seen all of the faults of everyone. I don't know. I think that maybe it might not be. I don't know. Maybe they realize that it's not just one person to lead anymore. Maybe they realize like let's fuck it. Let's have Bo, Din, and Grogu all lead us. So it isn't just one person making it. I don't know. Like, I don't, maybe it is something like that. They do get married, sort of thing. It is queen, king, prince type shit. I don't know, where the prince is technically older than both of the.
What I do think is important about the end of this season is that it doesn't mean they'll be gone from Mandalore forever. Him taking him on his journeys and stuff. That's just to get him acquainted with the galaxy at large. And I don't think that'll take very long. Grogu's been all over the fucking place. Like it's something he's already largely familiar with. But I think Din is going to train him in the ways of Mandalore and like their fighting styles and the way they do things. And then they'll return to Mandalore, because there's an inevitability to Grogu's story where he will be the ruler of Mandalore one day, right? Like, is that kind of how?
Yeah, it's or the option will be there for him, whether he takes it or not. Like, I feel like that's where it's going. Eventually.
And that'd be a ways down the line. That wouldn't be anytime soon. It would be
generations from then.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess. Because Yoda started everyone's focused on like just Yoda's age and when he started doing things. And Yoda, he had his first, I think his first student at 90, I think, or something like that. At 8, when he was 90 or about 100. And Grogu, he's 50, at least at the beginning. And it's only been, I don't know, everyone's obsessed with the 2 years of training with Luke, but I still think that's just in real life, 2 years.
Yeah, that's not.
Still,
that's not
I don't.
That was
but
not.
I think of like the whole show, it's been probably 2 years,
Maybe.
sort of thing. Because like when I was watching season 1, Grogu is small. Like he was
He's
a small little itty bitty thing, and his little waddle, like he was walking way slower. And you were right, Colton. Like he was running next to Din and like keeping up with him, like in the bar at the end there.
That shit's so funny
because
he's also like kind of, you can tell it's like really, really puppet work. But
totally. It doesn't work at all with
which
but it's
I love it for that reason. I love how practical Grogu is throughout the season. The way they just kind of like throw him in shots.
Literally ragdoll. Grogu's. I don't know. But no, he's definitely grown. Like, I don't know, he's shown, and he's speaking way more. Like, there has been growth, like, for Grogu. And he isn't just a baby and just cooing or whatever. He has had growth.
Mm-hmm. No, and
I genuinely think Grogu had a really good arc this season.
Yeah, I do too. I think he did a really good job. I'm a little questioning of there's a lot of choices made in this show and a lot of choices in Star Wars at large, which is why I don't try to complain about it too much, that are there to sell action figures. IG-12 existed so that we could sell action figures, but it also teased a little bit of an autonomy for Grogu that they just immediately took away. And I know that's because Din didn't like it. He was like, this isn't working for me. Not a fan. You're a child. You shouldn't have this sort of power over me. Like, and it makes sense from a parenting perspective. But there's also the fact that he is just a little guy who needs to get around and have a little more autonomy if he's going to be on missions with you where you're in danger all the fucking time.
Maybe Frog Lady taught him a lesson. Where Frog Lady got the droid and got the vocalizer and started speaking with him. It was like, actually, this can't wait. No, we gotta go. And maybe Grogu does that same thing. He's like, hey, I'm older than you. Listen to me. Like, give me a body. Let me
I think
move
the key
around.
with Frog Lady,
I don't
though, is
know.
that she's actually speaking a language, whereas
That's
Grogu's
true.
blah,
That's
blah,
true.
blah, blah.
Or maybe he does something he doesn't have to speak, but it's Star Wars, dude. I don't know. He could type, or like
I mean,
I don't know, like some.
You want the speech pathologist's perspective on that?
Yeah, I feel like it can be done. Come on, I don't know.
It depends. If he had, I would love to know what his little thingy in IG looks like how he even knows what button is yes, what button is no. If it's like a red button versus a green button, I don't think that he's reading at this point. He
can understand. I guess he understands people.
He understands people, but I'm going to read a button that says yes. I have questions whether or not Din can even read, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
But I think if you gave him something with pictures or something on it, if you gave him some kind of technology, I think that he clearly was able to figure it out really easily. So yeah, I think he has a lot to express that he's, for whatever reason, not able to.
I don't know. I think he's smarter than that. I mean, he separated Paz and Axwells from their fight. He's doing things that are a baby would not just do. He has critical thought. Grogu he's 52 years old. That dude's been around. He was in the Jedi Temple. They were, he was being trained by Jedi masters. No way they don't just teach you they teach you how to read at the Jedi Temple. They teach you how to.
But he was so little. He was too little.
Okay,
that's the thing, is that you gotta consider, I don't think his brain is aging at a different rate than his body is. I think he does a lot of things. Whenever he pulls up to the person selling fruit on the side of the street, and Din has to pull him away, and he's just like, nom, 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 nom. He's like, you have to pay for that, dude. And then he plays keep away and stuff. That's a childish thing to do. And so that's the other thing, is that I think that Grogu, that's the other thing. I don't the reason he seems so smart at times is because he has the Force. It's because he can feel the way you feel. He knows based off the way you feel how he should respond to things, and that automatically gives him a little bit of intuition. But I don't
I see.
There is a degree to things where he clearly understands meaning and the way things are said, and I'm curious if that is more he literally understands words, or he's just really good at seeping off of you what you are putting out into the universe, how you are feeling. Because he is a smart little guy. He definitely has a little bit of a brain on him, but
he dragged those guards away from Din and got him into the room all by with just him. I don't know. Okay, but I'm going a little too far as saying he's just gonna be hey Din, no, give me a body, yo, I'm older than you, you listen to me now, sort of. I'm going a little far there. I can see.
But I think he could communicate that in some way.
Yeah,
or he could just point, or or make it doesn't have to be in full slam poetry mode. It could just be hey. Look at IG. He misses, or maybe he looks at IG-11. They go back, visit Navarro, and he just, kind of cries, and he's like, "Oh, I liked that." And then Din's like, "Oh, buddy, you want your body back?
You really fucking destroyed my day that day. That was really rough.
I really didn't like that, bud." Yeah, I
think that's part of the arc that Mando needs to go on. I'm kind of hoping that next season he's realizing oh, this is not what this used to be when it was season 1 and I was just taking him around everywhere. Grogu has agency now. He's able to do things, and I really kind of need him to have more training with the Force. I don't need him to be a Jedi, but I feel like we need to kind of address that again too.
Ahsoka style, you do it in his own way, in his own.
Or even
pace,
they introduced Kellen Beck. Maybe he's still alive.
Right? Yeah, I don't know.
But
that's the thing, is that they introduced some people in that era. It's pretty well. The path does exist. Maybe he had the path does exist, and Grogu. Jedi were scattered all across the galaxy through that. So there is a possibility. That people
maybe someone that Kellen Beck trained, because his whole thing was the younglings, right?
That is very interesting. It is the way. The thing that's etched in the wall in the path is like you can only truly see, or something like once your eyes are closed, you can only truly see the way. And I don't know. It's
I'm still holding out hope that Ahsoka brings Ezra Bridger back into the fold, who is well acquainted with making attachments and working through them. And he
It
can work.
seems like that's the way it's going, though, right? Like they casted the character is gonna be there. Like,
Yeah, no, that's what's funny is like even the way the actor is like tweeting about it.
I know. I'm like, okay, so you're in like a good amount of
I
the
was really excited to play this hologram of a character so many people love, and it's like, okay, buddy,
It's like,
sure.
all right, like you're verified. Like we know that you're gonna be in this show.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of. I'm still like, we had this idea after I don't know if it was after season 1 or after season 2, where there's a future for Din and Grogu with the Ghost Crew, like existing. Like now that he's joined the New Republic in an unofficial sense, it automatically gives him a tie to Hera and Zeb and all of them. You know, Sabine and Ahsoka are out looking for Ezra. Once they all come back together, I don't think there's much reason to not believe that Ezra and Grogu could work together, you know, because I think there's also this looming new Jedi Order movie, which is set 35 years after this, or 40 years after this, when Grogu would be about 90, like Joe was saying about Yoda becoming a master and stuff.
His first student is Din? No, I'm sorry.
Din's
No,
dead.
I know. He'd be way old at that point anyway.
Sad. Maybe
And it'd be
Din's
gone.
kids.
Okay, I totally
Maybe
took
Din's-
you off your train of thought there.
No, you're
That's
completely
my
okay.
bad.
You're completely okay. But that's like kind of what I'm anticipating, is that by the time the new Jedi Order comes around, it's not like Grogu's not going to be a part of that, because that's what they've literally built in with this character, is a character who can live 1,000 years, and we are getting in the mix 50 years into that lifespan. You know, like that's purposeful. They plan on telling stories with him throughout his fucking life. So by that time, he has to be a little bit more acquainted with the Force. He's not going to be a 90-year-old still getting trained and stuff, I don't think. Like, I mean, unless of course he is, you know, I don't know. That is a possibility always, but I've always just kind of imagined that come the new Jedi Order movie with Rey and stuff, since it's been announced, that Grogu would kind of be kind of what Ahsoka was to Luke's temple, you know, just kind of there helping as much as he can. If not though, I would love to see Rey and Finn training Grogu. Wouldn't that be kick-ass?
Oh,
like,
dude. Yeah, I guess we'll get to see. I mean, they'll have to address it, you know, eventually. Because there's no way they kill the kid. There's just that, like, there's no way. Grogu is living.
That's the other thing, though, is that with the idea of the character arc I have in my mind for Grogu, him becoming the ruler of Mandalore, that doesn't fit in with the new Jedi Order. What it would mean is that there's some sort of alliance, like with Mandalore and the new Jedi Order. Like they're down with each other. They're cool. They have a place. Like that's just kind of how I've always thought of it. But
and if we're thinking about families too, maybe Din has kids. Maybe they're the ruler of Mandalore, and then Grogu is, you know, the ally.
Clan Din.
The clan of Din. Oh my god, I can't believe Din's his last name.
I know. It's so hard to get used to.
To fuck with us.
Yeah.
It was not. I guarantee you, it was not always his last name.
No, Jon Favreau was like, "I'm sick of these fan fictions. We're doing something."
Yeah, right.
I was wow.
Yeah, no, because I guarantee you, Din was idealized as his first name forever, and then whenever they decided Grogu was going to be adopted, they're like, Grogu Jaren, though?
Doesn't sound good, yeah. Din Grogu sounds good, but...
Din Grogu sounds good.
So the ship names, Dinbo, that doesn't even work. It's not Dinbo, it's Jarbo?
Bo Jaren.
I always said Bo Jaren was better. I always thought that was a better ship name. Can we talk about that, too? How do you all feel about that?
The ship?
The ship?
Yeah, the ship.
It'll come back around.
I want it.
It'll come back around. They're laying the seeds for sure. And Grogu getting closer and closer to Bo. You know, like there was a tweet that had the screenshots perfectly. But eventually Grogu was comfortable enough to sit in Bo's lap. In the, what's the ship name? Frick. Her ship.
Yeah,
the Gauntlet.
Yeah, the gauntlet. That's it.
Maybe that's just the general name for that kind of shit. But he was back off at first, and then he got up a little closer, and then he's like sitting, eventually comfortable enough to sit in her lap, and Bo-Katan is one character to actually say like your kid, or like your father, like when talking directly to
your dad
him.
was the only Mandalorian.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're warming us up to that idea, possibly, but I don't know. If it does happen, the helmet will have to come off. Like that. That's unless the helmet stays on. I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing.
Like I would hope that Din takes the helmet off.
I think that would happen. And I was almost kind of grateful that the helmet didn't come off this season because I feel like it would have then led to a kiss that I don't think would have been earned at this point.
Right. Yeah. Like it wasn't going to happen this season, and I don't think they ever led us that way. Like I don't like. It felt like
I feel like they don't always build up romance the best way. I feel like they could have.
That's true. That's fair. They could have pulled that off, but there's multiple perspectives on how a potential marriage alliance could come about with Bo and Din. I don't think it would be romantic. I think it would be dutiful. I think there's a perspective that Bo recognizes that Grogu lives forever and is like,
and
really
it's just the next
cool
down the line.
Yeah, she's like
literally the prince.
He would literally be the prince. It would give us a sound ruler for thousands of years, the same ruler who could herald a new age of Mandalore. There's also the perspective that if there does come about an issue between the Children of the Watch and these people again, marrying two people from those clans automatically kind of helps unite them. So like there's multiple perspectives to be taken on why a dutiful marriage could work, and I do think that would inevitably evolve into something more romantic. But I do think that if it was to start, it'd be kind of like like the excuse would be, oh well, it's dutiful,
Oh my god.
I don't know.
So mad if they do.
I don't know, because the first interaction they have, she takes off her helmet. Din's like, "You're no Mandalorian. Thanks for saving the kid, but see you later." He literally flies off, doesn't give her another second, and then she has to come back in to save him again to actually have to like talk with him. So like Din wanted nothing to do with Bo at the start, like absolutely zero. But then he's gotten to a point this season already where he's like, "I will follow you until your song is written." Like I think, and he was told that like Bo-Katan, they've been told the stories of Bo-Katan and how she was wrong and don't follow the ideas of Bo because, our beliefs are right and everything. So like his idea of Bo was always bad, but then he meets her and actually sees what she's doing, and he's like, okay, you're nice with it as well. You absolutely beat the crap out of everyone you go up against. I'll stand by you. Yeah, here's my darksaber. Oh, it's broken. I still don't care, whatever. Like, I think Din's a man, he's not a man of many words, but I could see that there is something actually, the whole idea has been like, man, wouldn't it be nice if I could finally just settle down and start a family? Like that,
I've always wanted that from him.
That since season 1, that's been the whole thing. And like with the kid, like that would be so nice. And then he's like, and then he says, wouldn't it be nice that we could live in the sun and have our kids, have our kids play in the sunshine instead of down in the darkness or whatever. So like it evolved from him wanting to settle down and just have a life to let's build towards a thing that our kids can settle down and play with. So like his mind's kind of on family. I don't know. His mind's on settling down. And the only reason he's still having to go is because the armor is like, yep, you're on this mission. You got to do it. And you got to be redeemed. And then now it's like, yep, you got to take Grogu on his apprentice missions. You got to do that, But I think if Din was really given the choice, he would settle down right now if he could.
He wants to be a stay-at-home dad really bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Big time.
I would I think I was getting on board with Din and Bo-Katan as early as I could because I was like, if this is the road we're going down, like I'm going to get on the ship. Like I just want to see some kind of romance, but I would like them to, build it up a little bit. I think that we have such a good setup here for like that kind of slow burn, like you can't see his face, so you got to get to know who he is and all this stuff. And I think since the first season, like this is just so perfect, the setup, and I don't know, I feel like they're not capitalizing on it in the way that they should.
Well, and they've already shown that Din is capable of a really, really actual quick escalating romance in season 1, episode 4, whenever he basically basically fall in love there, but he's got duty to tend to. So like they've shown that they can do that. They can pull off a convincing love story quickly.
Everyone who meets him is like in love with him. Like everyone.
How are you not?
How are you not? Like,
come on.
Just, I mean, yeah.
And he's Pedro Pascal under there too.
Yeah, and then he sees him. Oh my god, he is hot. Like, wow.
Yeah, he's hot. He's the single dad angle. He's got going as well.
In that armor, his armor.
That's the thing. Yeah, you're saying that it's for duty or for whatever, but like the real link between them is Grogu. They're both like she's just gonna want to be with Grogu and play with him, and then they're just gonna play together. And then Grogu will leave the room. He'll get it. He'll be like, okay, my time to go. I gotta leave the room, and I don't know. Like I think that not like that necessarily, but I think like that's the link between them. If there's any romance that starts, it's like, oh, I see my kid likes her as well, and that is attractive to him. It's like my kid is safe with her.
She does lose him at some point in the middle of the finale. Just not realize that he's not there.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny point.
Funny. No, I wanted to look back like, oh shit, he's gone. Sorry.
No, yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like what I'm saying is the only way it happens is dutifully. I'm saying that could be a good launching off point and excuse they use to justify it to themselves before acknowledging it within themselves.
Okay. So So it's building right now, but they both don't want to admit it.
Well, there's this other thing like
he can't, because what is he supposed to do if he's not taking his helmet off?
Yeah. No, that's the thing is that like I think that an idea of a dutiful relationship to branch the clans together to set up a new leader of Mandalore, a long reigning leader of Mandalore. They could decide that they need to do something like this, and then there's this quote in Game of Thrones, Joe, but from Catelyn Stark, where it's like it's not as passionate, but it's stronger. This kind of arranged marriage sort of thing. But I do think that it would evolve into a place of just like true love. Like, I don't think it would.
That's the thing. Yeah. In this case, it is out of duty, but also they also kind of like each other already. It's not out there that like, oh, it's only out of duty. It's not like forced where their parents are making them do it and they're like, oh no, I don't want to do this.
No, they would both, they both be down for it.
It's like a consensual duty, like out of duty. It's like they're making the choice out of duty because they don't want to admit that it's out of love as well. And then it's like, oh no, I definitely, I think that would play well for story a lot better if it is out of duty that they, that's why it springs into action. But then,
frankly, there's they can pull it off where it's another thing too. But like they've said, like at the end of season 3, I have very little hope for that. Unless they return to Mandalore.
What if Axe Woe starts hitting on Bo and Din is
honestly,
like, no.
I kind of ship them more. I feel like he's better for her in terms
Axe?
of who. Yes, because I think
he's her hype man right now. That's for sure. But Din hyped Bo up enough to actually retake Mandalore, though.
Well, and so
Axe is the hype man in the moment. But
my thing with them is that I think that Bo and Din are very similar in their, like, they're a little bit kind of prim and they're very duty bound and they're, very single minded. I think that I would like to see both of them with someone who's a little bit different. Like, I think that Axe is very charismatic, very bold, and very assertive, and I think that he would tease Bo, and I think he would he would flirt with her. Like, Din and Bo are not flirting at all. Like,
maybe I'm not out there then, because there was some imagery that was used in the earlier seasons where it was really pairing Bo and Axe together, and
I think that it feels like they broke
Casca.
up.
It was pairing Casca and Din together.
Yes.
Imagine that's the start.
Bo and Axe do have big X ex.
No,
energy.
when she's going to see him in episode 6,
Oh,
she's
they're
so
exes.
She is so stressed. She's like, I have to go talk to Axe, and like the way they're fighting in that season, I was like,
Oh, they're exes.
there's
I like that.
That's
think-
even better. Oh,
I
that's
think
even
so.
better.
I
Okay.
kind of like them together. I think they
Casca might be something in there too. I feel like, I don't know. Casca has some. Wait, is that her last name? I feel like that's her last name.
Casca
I don't know
Reeves.
anything
her
about her.
last
Okay,
name.
so it is her first name. Okay, yeah, Casca Reeves. I feel like, I don't know. She might be the relationship with Bo actually, because at the last dinner that they were all having, when Bo was bringing it up and being like what she had to do to save her people, Casca was the one who was about to step up. Bo was like, no, don't worry, I got this. But like, Casca was about to come up and start defending her and be like, no, but like, you were forced to, like, I don't know. I'm really wondering what she would have said in that moment if she was allowed to speak.
I'm still holding out hope for Din Cobb.
Din.
I mean, yeah, we all are.
Cobb?
But again, that's a character.
Oh, Cobb Van.
Older and it's more
Yeah.
charismatic
Oh,
and
dude.
And
Okay. Okay. I think.
I'm just thinking that they need people who are different than themselves.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe.
I'll be on board.
Like, frankly, I don't think there's been I don't think there's been a better romantic match presented for Din since season 1, episode 4. Like that woman is the ideal, like, settling down.
I don't know about
life.
that.
I guess once Gideon is gone, maybe he goes back there. Maybe that's where he settles down for good.
I would hate
Like maybe
that.
I don't know. Maybe like at the end, because there has to be a moment where, like, right now Grogu is his apprentice, and every master has the moment where they have to let their apprentice go, and it's a moment that is, every master seems that, like, how did you do this, and Yoda's always, well, did you think it was easy for me? It's always a difficult moment for the master and the apprentice, and like that moment will have to happen, but we'll also have the moment of, like, Grogu will have to have, I don't know, they'll have to have the conversation of, like, I will live on way longer than you, and I will see you die, like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to just be with me until you die? Do you want to, like, I don't know, they'll have to sort of have that conversation, like.
And see, like, they will one day, but that's not anytime soon because of Grogu's.
He's an apprentice right now, which is very nice. Yeah, we're in the early stages, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. But that is an eventual thing. Like, without a doubt, unless Grogu dies and Din dies at the same time, or they die together, and like I don't think Grogu dies. Din is definitely going to die before Grogu. But I don't know. We're I guess we are a ways away from that. But okay, I did want to get now that Casca and Axe are on the table. It's not actually that far out there. I wanted to throw out a theory that maybe it was Din getting with Casca and then Bo getting with Axe at first. Just like post, we just took back Mandalore, happy times, I don't know.
Party, let's fuck.
And then the jealousy starts from, it's jealousy. They're like, I don't know, like, if I don't like you being with Axe, and then Bo's like, I don't like you being with Casca, and then they just do the classic switcheroo, and then they're like, now Axe and Casca are together, and then Bo and Din are together, and then all is good. But
no, I think that whatever it is, I want it to be more than he just goes off to the planet that he was on in season 1. Like, I don't want it to be a prize that he gets at the end. I would like to see a build up of an actual.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that is kind of where his character is going. If we want to see more of who he is, like, we need someone to bring that out of him. And what better to do that than romance?
No, right. And I think that, don't get me wrong, I think that what you're speaking to is something that would be better executed. What I think these writers are capable of is
I absolutely agree.
That is another conversation. Yeah,
like that's the thing, is that, like, I think if they wanted to handle it correctly, they'd do it the way you're posing. I think that if they do it the way they've done everything else, they go ahead and just go, he'll just return and they'll run into each other's arms and that'll be the end of the story, and that'll
we'll all be annoyed. Yes,
but hopefully,
100%.
A love something. Give us a love.
Give us a romance. I know romance in Star Wars and live action Star Wars in so long.
I know.
Not a really good one anyway.
There's so many people who are like, not everything needs to be romance, and it's like, but some things can be.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I disagree. Yes, everything does need to be romance. 100%.
I feel like that's a crucial part of stories. Like,
why are we telling this?
Andor, why was that so good? Is because all the, it's not pure romance in the way that people think about it as like boyfriend girlfriend, but like romance is like the family connection, or like the even like Brasso and Marva. Like it's not romance, but that's still like it's a love connection that they had that strengthened that shit. It's not romance in the way that you would think about it, but
and not to mention that when it came to Andor, there's just gobs of sexual tension between so many different characters.
I mean, everyone in that show's hot. So.
That's
yeah,
true.
Cassian and Bix are just like drooling all over each other. We get the closest thing we've ever gotten to an actual sex scene with Bix and Tim. Vel and Cinta, like they're hot and heavy for each other.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's
we need some more love in the Mandalorian.
We absolutely do. And I like when you think about it, over the 6 seasons of live action Star Wars, I think the only on-screen kiss is Tim and Bix, which is gross when you think about that.
Right.
No.
Yeah, because no one kisses in Mando, no one kisses in Boba Fett, and no one kisses in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Oh,
the only on-screen kiss is Tim and Bix.
We really need some more love in Star Wars, huh? Yeah, that's not
even
that's
if they
not a
just
good
want
balance.
to do like a Keldabi kiss, bro, like the fucking helmets like pushing their foreheads together.
Yeah, or a little Eskimo, a little something, a hug, anything. Fuck, I don't know.
Oh, give me a kiss.
Hold hands.
Even,
they haven't even gotten to first base yet. Like I don't know. Like they need to get moving.
I mean,
you're right.
Really over nothing. Like there's no anything.
Well, I don't know. Maybe now we got Mandalore. Things will start settling down, I guess, a little bit. Maybe they're making Bo the next Satine, and maybe that's why they're not mentioning her yet. Is that like now Mandalore will be peaceful, and the plants will start to regrow, and it'll be a time of peace, and then maybe Bo's the replacement for Satine in live action. I really hope that's not what they're doing, and I hope that they just take the animated story as canon as it is, and they just don't try to replace it. But it kind of seems that Bo is following a very similar story arc, and the Darksaber being gone is very convenient for that as well. And like now that Gideon is gone, I don't know, it feels like it's just a brand new slate. And Mandalore is now we got all the backstory and all the factions and all everything that you need to understand Mandalore. And now let's get to it and sort of thing. But I hope not.
If they erased, because what I don't know if I always loved the handling of the female characters in really anything, but particularly sometimes Star Wars. I feel like a lot of the time they're all the same. I think what makes them different is the great performances that the actresses give, especially in Mando. Like I do love the amount of female characters that we have, but especially in season 2, when we have like all 4 of the girls together, I feel like you could replace anyone's line with anyone else's line, and it would make sense because they're all kind of written.
Talk about
someone who is. Satine is different. She has a different perspective, and she brings something different. So if we're just gonna, and Padme too is very different. Like she has that diplomatic mindset, and I feel like we're kind of erasing the storylines of more nuance. Not that they're not nuanced female characters that we have, but the fact that we can have different kinds of female characters and different things that female characters want. So I feel like that's all kind of getting moved out, and I would be disappointed if they did that.
I'm with you 100%. This is a critique we've had for Fennec Shand, the way that character has been treated. There could be so much more to explore with Ming-Na as that actress. She's incredible, and she's extremely one-dimensional. I want them so badly to recast Cara Dune because there's a lot of potentiality for that character as well.
Sasha Banks in this show, Casca Reeves, is an actual, like, she's a professional wrestler. Like, she knows how to perform very well, like, and do action. And then she got, like, I don't know, like, the fight scene that we got between Axe and Bo, like, Casca barely got to do anything this season. She's just back there to look tough. Like, and she came up for one line. And it's just, like, really sad that they have, like, so much talent, like, and they just, it doesn't seem that they're just utilizing it well at all.
Yeah, and it's just, but it's all like the same sort of character. Every female character is very badass. Every female character is really good at fighting. Every female character is very like closed off emotionally. Like we don't have any diversity of character traits. We don't have any female characters who are like Padme and Satine, who are very diplomatic.
Mon Mothma might be the only like
Mon Mothma, yes.
That might be.
Six, I think, too, has more of like.
And Andor is kind of exempt from this.
That might be it. Yeah, that might be it.
But yeah, we don't have anyone who
everywhere else is not good.
Yeah, I think I would like. Thinking back to the romance, I think I would like to see Mando with someone who is very different from who he is, and I think every female character that we have so far is too similar to who he is.
Right.
Okay.
No, I'm with you.
If he was.
So the point of this episode initially was to rank the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. Do we have rankings ready, everybody?
I do. Just Mando.
We're just doing Mando. I have a larger Disney Plus seasons thing too, but I think we should just do Mando for now. We can discuss the grander thing at a later date. But as far as The Mandalorian is concerned, I want to hear your guys' ranking, and I think we'll start with Claire since she's our guest today.
Thank you so much. Okay, so are we doing worst to best or best to worst?
Always worst to best for me.
Okay, that's what I figured. And when I say worst, I just mean, what I enjoyed personally the least.
Yeah.
So what I enjoyed personally the least was season 3, and it's not close. All the reasons that we said. I'm excited to see where the story goes from here, but this just wasn't quite the show that I love the most, and I think that we've gone through that enough. My second, this was hard because before the season, I never really would have even considered ranking the seasons because I think the way the story goes is so, it just builds very nicely.
Yeah.
But my second place is going to be season 1. Love season 1. Season 1 altered all of our brain chemistries. Truly a cultural reset for a lot of people. Great storylines, great, character of the week, mission of the week kind of thing, leading up to a very interesting conclusion. I think that the reason that I put it in second is just because it is the introduction and we're starting to get storylines that I think have a big payoff later on. And I loved the finale of season 1, but I do think it kind of comes out of nowhere with Moff Gideon. Like we've said before, I think Moff Gideon in general could just be utilized better. So love season 1, gonna put that in second place. And first place, I'm gonna say season 2, because I just think that I was so nervous to watch season 2 when it was coming out. And then because every week I was like, how is this gonna be as good as what I'm hoping it was? And every week it was as good as I was hoping it was. And the storyline altogether is the way that it builds on what came before it, the way that it builds on the characters that we have, the way that it leads to what I think the season 2 finale is just insane that it even exists. Not even just like having Luke Skywalker there, but then that moment when Mando takes off his helmet. Like I think that's even more shocking than Luke showing up, and it's just, it feels very pitch perfect, and the way that it builds and the way that it tells its story is so complete. And I love season 2 so much. So that is my ranking.
I love it. I actually have the exact same ranking.
I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm not sure how we're going to go with 1 and 2.
No, I have the same ranking just because, season 3, while I do end up reflecting on it very positively, I do, in retrospect, I do think it's a pretty well done season as far as Bo-Katan's arc is concerned. But beyond that, I don't think they did a lot of heavy lifting in any regard. I think the first 2 seasons, while they were easier to write, it did lend them to being more well written. Because they were easier to write. I think that the stakes in season 1 and 2 are higher. Season 1, Grogu's got a bounty on his head, and the entire time you're looking out, you want Din to protect him with his life. It's you in the back of your head throughout that season. You're going, they're probably not going to kill the baby, but we also haven't had enough time with the baby to know if that's the case. So. And then season 2, we even have the looming stakes of Moff Gideon being alive after the end of season 1 and the Empire still wanting to get Grogu and him having to protect him all the while trying to return him to the Jedi. So those just had really clear directions, really concise storytelling, visually brilliant beginning to end. That's one weakness of season 3, that there's just a drop in quality where season 1 to season 2 elevated. Season 2 is visually fucking stunning. Season 2 to season 3 is is an even bigger drop than the elevation between season 1 and season 2. So like, I used to think, and I'm still mostly of this mindset, that writing is the most important part of a television or movie production. But it's also a visual medium. I need to like what I'm looking at, or else it can be hard to get through, and I think that at points this season it was pretty dull. It was pretty boring to look at. It had its moments, like the story did. It had its moments, and that's kind of the overall consensus for season 3 for me, is that it had its moments, but it wasn't as strong as previous seasons have been. So like I ended up coming down the exact same 2, 1, 3 as my ranking, and I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Well, I guess I do have 3 at the bottom, but I do have the top 2 switched. I do have season 1 at my top, actually, and season 2 in second place. So I just have 1, 2, 3 in my 1, 2, 3. And I do think there is that gap between seasons 1 and 2. Like I do reflect a lot more positively on this season than I did when I first came off of it, season 3. But it is still noticeably below seasons 1 and 2, and I think that's just because of what they tried to do. They tried to do too much in a single season of television, and there's kind of like a theory that if you try to combine two things, one, you can't have both can't get better really. If you combine two things, one will have to suffer, or likely both will suffer, to have something more grand. And I think that's just kind of what happened here is whether, Rangers of the New Republic really put a wrench in things and they had to change a whole bunch of stuff, or maybe it is a Filoni and Favreau dispute. I don't know. I don't know what it is going on up there, but something is clearly going on where not everyone's on the same page. And I maybe they're going for the long game now, and it's a lot. The story is obviously way more grand, but that's I guess seasons 1 and 2 are still above season 3 for that reason. It's just when the story is simple, it's not that the story is better because it's simple. It's just I have emotional weight on seasons 1 and 2. I don't know. I actually, there are stakes. I don't know, I'm more invested in the show and in the characters themselves in seasons 1 and 2. But in season 3, I'm invested in what does this mean for the sequels? What does this mean for Snoke? What does this mean for Grogu? Not in the now. I'm not in the now of the show, and I think that's where it faults, is that we don't have time to sit down with the characters. And I keep coming back to it, but I really think that that's like just what it comes down to. But when we got to sit down with them at that the dinner they all had on the boat, whenever Din and Bo were just in the shuttle and on Plaisir 15 just talking to each other, like whenever it is just slow, you get in the minds of the characters and you get these amazing moments that aren't flashy and that it isn't a fight, but it's just Din telling Bo, I will follow you until you die. Like that is moments that you need in a show, not Gideon going up in a blaze or the Darksaber being destroyed. I understand these things need to happen for the plans that they want to carry out in the plans of Star Wars, but in order to have a television show be good week to week, like they're releasing this week to week as well. And that's just, I don't know. I think it's more of a money grab. It felt this season than the show that they were really wanting to make in seasons 1 and 2. And it's because season 1, they had to. It was the first live action Star Wars show. They had to make it good. It couldn't be a cash grab. Like it had to be visually good. It had to be story, like everything had to be good. But now they realize like people are going to be in and watch it no matter what, and we can get so much more merchandising with Grogu. I don't know, like it seems that money's on their mind a little too much right now. But I don't know. It's still a good season though. Still fantastic, and I loved it. And I don't know. I'll never hate this season. Is the thing. I'll never watch these episodes and be like, ugh, like this is just so bad and I hate Star Wars and everything about it. And no, it's not going to happen.
No, I still had a great fucking time, even if there was a drop off in quality.
I'm still going to miss them so much.
Exactly.
I know. Yeah. And a lot of people are saying we're right back to where we started, but like, I don't know.
It's not the same.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Now we have Mandalore. Gideon is hopefully gone for good. And this mustache thing, like, I mean, I know I generally go on details like that, but like, that's ridiculous. Like, oh my God, like, I understand they showed him that his clones didn't have facial hair, but like, the dude can shave his face.
Yeah,
like,
that's not a leap.
There was a tweet that was like, Grief Karga, facial hair changed from season 1 to 3, officially confirmed that Grief Karga's a clone as well. And it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of where we're getting to at this point. But, I don't know if they do bring Gideon back. I do think they're a little, I don't know, something bad's going on. If they do bring Gideon back, if they do, it has to be that he's been pulling the strings the whole time, and that it's going to change how you look at seasons 1, 2, and 3. Like, that's the only way they can bring him back now. If it's not that, then like, keep him dead, please. Like, I don't know, like, just.
No, I'm with you. 100%. I think that, like I said, I was 2-1-3, she was 2-1-3, you were 1-2-3. There's kind of a consensus on this season, and I think that's, I've seen a lot of people I really, really, I tend to agree with on a lot of things on Twitter, and whose takes I really, really enjoy, who have this as like their favorite season of The Mandalorian, like this connected with them on a level that previous seasons hadn't, and I can respect that. Like it's, I'm glad this hit for a lot of people. Just didn't do what previous seasons had done for me on a personal note. I think that I just think there was a lot left to be desired, and I think that while I'm really happy with the end of the season, like I think 7 and 8 were an incredible cap to a somewhat all right season. 7 and 8 did a fantastic job. I loved the finale. I loved the way I know a lot of people feel like, okay, the story's just getting started. I would be perfectly fucking okay if they never touched this shit again. If they just left it. If they were like, Din and Grogu live out their days on Navarro and Bo's ruling Mandalore, and that's that. I'd be like, fuck it. Yeah, all right. Thank God you can't do anything bad anymore.
It's just that Grogu's Grogu, though. If it was just like, if it wasn't
Ben,
someone who lived to be 1,000, yeah, like if it was just some, I don't know. That's the only thing, is that we know they're not just going to live out their days and do nothing. They're obviously the focal point of where Star Wars is going for the next 1,000 years, or Grogu, hopefully, will be the centerpiece of it for a long time.
That's the thing, is that in the grand scope of things, by the new Jedi Order shit, Din could be dead.
Yeah, I feel like if it was just Din going off with someone, like, we would never see that man again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's the thing. We will 100%, and I will eat it up. I will love it. I will watch it. But like I said, I'd be perfectly okay if we didn't. That's like I know they will. I'm fully prepared for that. It's just I would be perfectly comfortable if they decided they didn't want to.
Have they already confirmed season 4 though?
Yeah, season 4 will begin filming.
Like 5 and 6, like they've just said, like they would like to have it go on for like 6, 7 seasons, right? But that wasn't ever confirmed. Like I think
it was never set in stone, but there's no fucking way they stop this one. Like we said, it's about merchandising. People love Grogu. We will continue to eat up action figures of the little guy. I know I will. The Mandalorian armor was designed to sell toys initially with Boba Fett, and it's doing its fucking job. Every time we get a new Mandalorian, I'm like, that's super fucking cool. I love that. When can I get it? 3.75 inches tall,
Yeah, man. And I don't know. I'm really, is Fallen Order out yet? The next one.
Nope.
It's still man, I really just need to know what happens in that story so bad. Just to know if like they delayed the story, just the release for this, for story reasons, or if it's just, I don't know, game reasons or whatever. Because who knows? Maybe Cal's the one who started the path. Does that timeline even line up at all?
He would have been a bit young at the end of Order 66.
That's true. Or maybe he was through the path. Maybe he
got ushered through the path.
Ushered through the path and then took it on himself afterwards or something to carry it on.
Be cool.
Because I mean, he had a holocron. You know, he knew where all the jet. Well, he destroyed it actually, didn't he? Yeah, he sliced it in fucking half.
Yeah. I destroyed that thing. But
anyway, I don't know. But I guess when you said like you were fine with this story ending and being complete, I think I'm fully there too. It's just my brain is so much more in like the theory and the plotting and like what they're planning to do. But no, I think I fully like if they didn't touch it anymore, it's a happy ending. It's like a perfect. How could you want anything more? We got Mandalore back. Bo's the leader. Don't even need the Darksaber anymore. You got Din and Grogu living out their days. You know, Grogu's got his little pond of frogs that he'll probably just keep breeding and then forcing them up to practice the Force, but then also eating them, you know, because he likes to eat those frogs. So, like, I bet off screen he just ate that frog right afterwards. We didn't see it. But, I don't know, like, they got a good little system out there going. I just don't think that in the you know, Palpatine is still around, and he's not dead yet. And I think, you know, that their main goal was like, oh, well, once Gideon's gone, no one's going to be tracking Grogu and we'll be fine. But now that Gideon's gone, I think Din's like, okay, now we're finally good. We'll be able to settle down. But then he's going to realize the Empire is still around, you know, and that is the real problem. And that is what can't be around. And he will never be safe until the Empire is gone, and that's what the story.
Well, and I think that's
turns into
what the kind of conclusion we come to at the end of season 3 is. Like, I don't want to go on many missions, but the missions I do go on, I would like them to be targets of the New Republic and Imperial remnants. That'd be ideal.
And
yeah, man,
get
I don't know.
That? You know, who can't get behind going to kill every Imperial remnant that there is in the galaxy?
Every last little imp, you know, I can get with that. But yeah, I look forward to the future of the show, even if this one wasn't the strongest season. I think that I think Star Wars has proven itself to be capable of some really incredible storytelling. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, just because writing doesn't work for you doesn't mean it's necessarily bad writing, and it's a general statement I can get behind, but I don't think that changes the fact that, you know, Jon Favreau needs someone else in the writer's room. I love that the story has a singular vision. Someone has an idea for it and they execute it, but it could be better. It could be better. I
agree. I do agree. I don't know. Hopefully, maybe they'll hear all of this, you know, and I think they have their ideas for season 4, but they still got to make it. And I think after hearing all of this stuff, they'll I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they'll come back with, or if Ahsoka just changes the game complete. I don't know. Maybe will come Ahsoka, you know, something gets revealed in there, and we see Mando pop up, and it's like, oh, yeah. I mean,
there hasn't been a show in this timeline that Din hasn't made an appearance in, you know. So
yeah, this is true. Okay.
But yeah, we could get some more there. But do we have any last thoughts on the Mandalorian here?
Let's see. I think that's it. I wanted to just get any random last theories I had out, just in case they come true. But I got time for those to even happen. I don't need to get them all out now.
We got time to formulate those.
My brain has been spent. That's one good thing about season 3, though. It's making me think about Star Wars quite a whole lot. So
one thing about your theories that I want to remind everybody is that Snoke's been alive for a while at this point. So there's nothing going into the creation of Snoke still. Snoke's alive and well. Which is a weird one. It's a weird little skank in the scud pie, as Pelimoto would put it.
We'll see how that plays out. You know, they're obviously filling in those gaps for a reason. They're letting us know how it came about. And I don't know. I hope Thrawn's a big part of that, and that's how Ahsoka will get wrapped in with this storyline too, and just have Ahsoka thrown in as well, which is just awesome. And I can never complain about more Ahsoka.
No, fuck no.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm after rewatching the earlier seasons, it has been interesting. Thinking that the armorer is a spy the whole time, you know. But like, I'm not like just fully there and agreeing with it. But like thinking that it's a possibility. There was an Imperial base on Navarro the whole time. that they thought was abandoned, but Gideon's clones are there, and that's where all of his clone testing was, and Dr. Pershing was, and that's like, okay, like is that a little coincidental that the Covert is on the same planet where Gideon's clones are? I don't know, like I don't know if I'm actually going too far, and the Covert gets wiped out, and like they need blood. They said, Grogu, they didn't have enough blood, so they needed more if they wanted to continue. But what if, to create these clones, he says he's getting the best from each faction. They need the literal blood for these clones of the Mandalorians to like fuel the actual making of these human clones. And like, so the wiping out of the Covert is just so that Gideon can have all of that blood for his cloning and all of that stuff. And like, that's what the eyeball creature's draining all of that blood for. And like, they need the blood itself, and like, because we have no idea.
That eyeball creature, man, yeah. I love it.
Well, I know. I just really want him to mean something, but like, it's just more of the blood, I think. But like,
now that you mentioned that is weird.
I don't know, because Kaminoans were the only people who could clone, and they, they knew something that a lot of people didn't. And maybe it's just that it was so unethical that it was like, you need literal life to create life. Like, you have to have the blood, like it's almost 1-to-1, sort of thing. So like, maybe that's like the secret, is that Kaminoans just, I don't know, go around and collecting all the dead bodies they can find and just harvesting blood from every species. And I don't know. I'm going off the deep end though. That's what the show's making me do a little bit. But yeah, so I got to give it credit for that a little bit. Seasons 1 and 2 didn't make me do that, but this season sure is.
Well, I think seasons 1 and 2 did make us do that, but it was a much more clear direction as to, like, theories were much more feasible. Like, it was
concise as well.
Yeah,
not Grant, not Palpatine and Snoke and cloning and
how does
the Shadow Council.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's like, who saved Grogu and who's gonna come pick him up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like, it was much more simple and focused. It wasn't so grand.
And simple doesn't mean, like, the writing in season 1 and 2 was much more simple, but that doesn't mean that it was worse. I think if you pull off a simple story really well, I think.
Yeah.
Like we've seen, look at what that can do.
No, 100%. Like I said, when I was given my ranking, I think that seasons 1 and 2, while they were more simple, it lent them to being better written. Like it helped them more concisely convey the story they were telling. And I think it benefited them in those seasons a lot. But have you any more thoughts on these seasons, Claire? You got any last thoughts here?
Last thoughts. I haven't really processed the fact that we're not getting any more Mandalorian this week. I'm excited to see where the story goes. I don't think that the song of Din and Grogu is yet written, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Hell yeah, I love it. If you do not want Star Wars to stop on Wednesdays, we aren't going to stop it here on the Penny Bloom podcast. Starting Wednesday, we've got the Ahsokast starting, and we're going to be filling in the gap between Mandalorian and Ahsoka with just kind of reliving all of Ahsoka Tano's key moments as a character. We're going to be discussing the Clone Wars movie this Wednesday, and after that, some Clone Wars arcs. Every episode of Rebels, she even kind of makes an appearance in as Fulcrum and such. But that's every Wednesday for as long as, until we find out exactly when Ahsoka is in August. We don't know exactly when, but we've got enough to get us to August, and if we need to add more, we can add more. But so if you're a Star Wars fan who doesn't want Star Wars Wednesdays to stop, they don't have to. If you're fucking with us, we can go ahead and keep pushing forth, relive some of those best moments with Ahsoka, and it's going to be a hell of a time. Strongly recommend. Joseph actually watched the Clone Wars movie for the first time, and we discussed that. That'll be this Wednesday. Yeah. So it'll be a fun one.
Sadly, it was the first time. It is sad to say that it took me this long, but a very good watch nonetheless. And through the lens of Ahsoka was very interesting.
Yeah, and that's the key here. Everything's through the lens of Ahsoka, how it affects Ahsoka. We're not just talking about the movie or the arcs in general. It's specifically how it affects Ahsoka Tano, which is the little... That's why it's the Ahsokast,
Proud of that name too. You were on there.
I feel good
you
about
got that pretty good. Colton
Yeah.
said it. I mean, he dropped it. It was in. I saw it in text first, and I'm like, "Oh, that just looks so good." And then I said it out loud.
I think it reads better than it sounds.
Yeah, a little
still
bit.
doesn't
Yeah.
sound bad.
I guess, but even though I
bad.
said it out loud, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I hope this doesn't exist. We need it," you know. And I think we both Googled it at the same time just to make sure. And like, nothing's popping up. We're like, we have to. It just made so much sense.
That was the. Sometimes we come up with a name before we come up with the idea for the show, and we're like, "Oh, we got to figure out how to fulfill this name." But yeah, so that's coming this Wednesday. We're still doing our top 100 Star Wars characters. That'll continue tomorrow on Tuesday with part 4, which will be 30 through 39. I'm very excited for that. And then Thursday will be 20 through 29. So we're chipping away at that little by little. Star Wars fans, you got plenty to do here on the Penny Bloom podcast. Friday, we continue our comic book movie journey through film. And I believe this week is Blade 2? No.
Daredevil.
I keep forgetting that one exists.
Yeah.
Daredevil. But yeah, Daredevil, starring Ben Affleck. That's what we discussed this Friday. Winter is Blooming, our Game of Thrones rewatch podcast, will actually continue later today. Me and Joe are going to have to hop back on and record that here before long. Another goodie. But can't wait for that. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you gotta be rewatching that with us. It's been incredibly rewarding. It's been super fun. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening. Follow on Twitter at PennyBloomPod and on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. I want to thank you, Claire, once again for joining us. If you have anything to plug, you can plug it, or if not, no big deal. Just thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for convening the Mandalorian support group. Needed that.
Oh, of course. And you're more than welcome. If you ever have any ideas for anything you want to talk about, hit me up and we will try to figure out how to make it happen, because I love having you on and it's a great deal of fun for me. So yeah, if we don't have anything before the next time, I think Batman Begins is the next thing on our docket that we have you slated to join us for.
That's gonna be fun. I can't wait for that.
I know, I'm so excited. But yeah, so again, thank you so much. And thank you, Joseph George, for joining me once again.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is always a pleasure.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And this is the way.